It's okay. We do it all in truth.
So let's also check on the Facebook page. Just give me a minute.
We are
Yep.
live.
So, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome each one of you to the official launch of Shortz. Uh, Before I get into what Shortz is, let me introduce our two esteemed guests. Uh, Jignesh Asher. Jignesh, my co-writer in the first two books in the series, is a banker and a consultant, banker turned consultant. He's been with the foreign banks for about over 20 years and decided to give it up and turn into a consultant, probably put all the experience to good use. And he is a brilliant writer. So more about him slightly later. Let me come to Vinita Nangia, who's the guest of honor who will launch the two books in the series today. Vinita, welcome to this launch of Shortz, and thank you very much for agreeing to launch Shortz series. Uh, and for those who don't know Vinita is a very well-known uh, journalist. Uh, she has regular columns which are iconic uh, in the life section of Sunday Times. Vinita is also, more importantly, closer to home, the director of Right India and the Times Lit Fest. Vinita was the brain behind Right India, and which has probably thrown up new writers like never before. And it was a short story contest which is run for 24 months. And I think the number of good new writers that have come up through Right India. I'm not sure the publishers in this country also would have discovered those many new writers, and Jignesh is actually one of them. So that's the introduction for the two esteemed guests on the show. Now, more about Shortz. Now, what's Shortz? Shortz is nothing but thrillers on steroids. These are very, very short, 150 to 170 page thrillers, which are good, fast paced stories. They don't have any fillers. It's a book equivalent for a caffeine for an exhausted mind, I guess. And I can assure you that it's a story which will hold you firmly in the grip till you actually complete it. Till that time, you will not be able to put it down. These are short books. These are about, as I said, 150 pages. So whether you're on a flight, whether you're on a car drive, whether you are on a train journey or just commuting from office, this is the ideal book for you. And there's a thought process behind why I wanted to do Shortz, which we'll actually come to slightly later in this broadcast. But to begin with, uh, should we launch the book before we dwell straight into it, Vinita? What do you say?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
Let's do that. So,
so there we go.
here we go.
Just watching this. These are the two books in the short series, Insomnia and A Brutal Hand. Now, both have been written by Jigs Asher and me, and these two are wonderful thrillers, non-banking thrillers, and I'm sure that each one of you would like it. There are a few people on this conversation who already have read those, and I would love to hear from them later as to what they think about it. But folks, these are the two books which define Shortz. We may actually have another 20 books in the series, but these two will remain the first two. and Jigs, you will remain the first co-writer in the short series, irrespective of
That's
how
my
many more
privilege.
writers come up.
That's my privilege. Thank you. Congratulations to everyone.
So
Congratulations,
congratulations,
Jigs,
Ravi.
and
Congratulations, Jigs, both of you together
Thank
for
you,
this
Vinita.
new baby that has been given birth today. Many, many congratulations and wish you all the best.
yeah, you too.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Vinita. Thank you very much. And so, moving on, now that we've unveiled, I think we could actually have the two covers as the backdrop to this entire call. Okay, now, moving on from here, Jigs, uh, why don't you tell us what made you write these short stories? Tell us about a little bit about your journey from uh, a writer to from banker to a writer, and how did that happen?
So, Ravi, sometime back I had read a phrase which resonated so well with me, which said that you do not choose writing, writing
Hmm.
chooses you. And that's something which actually happened with me. So, absolutely no intention of turning a writer, but was always inspired because I've participated in all the book launches of your books, right? So was inspired, and they say that everybody has one book in them, and probably that book kind of came out from me as well. So I was just in my evenings, sometime in mid 2017, I enrolled in a creative writing course, right? And coincidentally, around that time, in Times of India, what I see is a big quarter page advertisement of Write India, with the photograph of Jeffrey Archer, who's I've always idolized since I was a kid and started reading. And I read about the rules of Write India, and I said, okay, why not? I mean, let me just participate. And it was just the thrill of participating in a nationwide contest, which was being judged by none other than Jeffrey Archer. And I participated. It was a thriller, the story that I had written, and I won that, right? And I think that was the beginning. So that's where Vinita, in that sense, came into my life as and propelled me to be a writer. And soon after that, you read that story, The Way It Is Killing, right, for which I won the award. And coincidentally, you were planning the short series with Westland at around the same time. And then we spoke, and everything just happened. And so I was lucky in that sense, but I think it was a calling that I finally found.
Uh, so, Jigs, congratulations on your first book. Actually,
Thank
first
you.
two. I can't think of in the recent past of any author who's actually made a debut with two novels. So you would probably be one of the few, and it's like hitting two centuries on the in the first two test matches that you play. Well, Vinita, it must be really, really satisfying for you to see that, something which was your dream, which is the Right India movement, uh, has resulted not only in Jigs, but a lot of other fresh talent kind of making their way into this industry. And I think this industry is kind of fed up with all the people who have been occupying the so-called pedestals for the last 10, 12, 14 years. So you've been kind of instrumental in bringing in new talent and kind of giving a voice to people like these. So must be really fulfilling.
It is. It's really exciting, and you can see that I haven't stopped smiling since we started this program because I feel really good about the fact that Right India has turned out to be nothing short of a revolution in the world of aspiring writers. And when I launched the project in 2015 with Times Internet Limited, I had very little idea of the ripples that it was going to create. At that time, my idea was that, okay, let's create a platform for all the people that I used to meet at various literature festivals and who wanted to read, who wanted to write, and who wanted to be read, but they had no access to publishers. And on
Hmm.
the other hand, there were people like you, Ravi, people like you who had become instant success stories in the world of commercial literature, people like Chetan Bhagat, people like Amish Tripathi, Durjoy, Ravinder, Preeti, Nikita Singh, they were churning out, you guys were churning out book after book, book after successful book, and making it seem like writing was so easy. And the next step to success was just like, a logical, easy step to take. So who would not want that kind of a dream success, and that you tasted? So it started because of you. You guys had simple language, your stories were relatable, and this made books accessible to a large populace. And a lot of people who were scared of reading and even picking up books because there was that fear of entering the world of intellect, and it seemed kind of beyond reach for them all. It became like a very doable thing. And
Mm.
you guys were real people who were seen and who were heard, and you were not some unreachable intellectuals living in another land who one possibly mostly heard of but never really read. So suddenly, not just reading, even writing seemed to have become doable for a lot of people. And the
Mm.
imagination and ambition of an entire generation was fired, was triggered by this. Everyone had stories to tell, and now they had dreams to follow. And
Yeah.
I think with Right India, we just gave them that opportunity. And it was one such amazing path to the success that thousands had wistfully desired. So, and I was lucky because all the authors that I spoke to, you including, were so excited about providing a platform and wanting to give back, because you guys were equally surprised by your success, weren't you? It was
Yep.
like,
Absolutely.
wow, I'm
Absolutely.
a writer and I've become such a big writer and I'm so successful. You guys were like bankers and you were businessmen and from IITs, IIMs, like you yourself, Ravi, and suddenly you were like very successful authors. So you were very willing to give back and participate in this Right India. So I think it was an idea at the right time, at the right place, with the right people. And today we have many success stories. We have about 400, close to 400 Right India winners in 3 seasons, and we worked with about 31 of the world's best, definitely our country's best authors, and some of the world's best as well. And it's been lovely. The journey has really been lovely. We are getting ready to launch season 4 very soon, and looking forward to that. And Jigs has certainly done us proud.
Thank you, Vinita.
So, Jigs, Vinita wanted to ask you a separate question, which, Vinita, would you want to ask, or should I ask
Yeah.
that question as to what is it with
You're telling me, Ravi, what the question is?
I don't know which question you mean, Ravi. I have several for Jigs, and I have some for you as well.
Yeah, go
Uh,
ahead. Shoot.
Yeah,
You
but the
could
first one,
ask
Jigs,
me.
I'm going to ask you is, I mean, it's actually a question for both of you. What is it about bankers and writing? Who ever imagined that a banker would turn into a successful commercial writer? So, is this something that they teach you in banking, which the rest of us don't know, how to write such successful fiction?
So I think I can safely answer that now that I'm not a full-time banker and none of my bosses are bankers. One, I think as bankers, I think we have a lot of free time. Okay, and
Really? Yeah. Okay.
and and I think on a lighter note, the kind of troubled phase that banking has seen over the last few years, I think we also get to ready ourselves for an alternate profession, you know, to fall back on. And of course, we are writing crime fiction, and what better place to get inspired than the world of banking?
Absolutely. Today, Vinita, if you read the newspaper reads straight out of a crime thriller, right?
It
Look at the kind
does.
of
Definitely in India,
yeah.
even
So
our news channels as well. Yeah.
yeah, and I guess I don't know. Jigs, you said alternate profession, so that's a bit of a question mark in terms of whether, on a standalone basis, writing can actually be an alternate profession. But I leave that to another discussion, because that discussion itself can go on for a couple of hours. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so but
Interesting.
it's very, very coincidental, Nita, that there are so many bankers who actually made it big in the world of writing. I guess we are used to fiction and thrilling fiction. We cook up our books every now and then, so I guess it showed in the way we write.
Okay, whatever it is, we welcome that. But it's very interesting that you started Shortz with crime thrillers, Ravi, because crime thrillers in India really haven't taken off till now. And I read a lot of crime thrillers, but I read mostly international writers. And one hears so much about Scandinavian crime thriller writers, all those
Correct.
that Nordic crime fiction and all. And I used to wonder, why is it so that a lot of fiction, crime fiction, seems to come out of there, that part of the world. And I was told that it's because those countries are very peaceful and very happy most of the time. So for them, crime is something that is very different. And when they read crime fiction, it's something unusual that they read. Whereas in India, like you said, you open the newspaper and there's crime all over. And maybe people have had their fill of it. And you yourself said once that, romance is something which is more readable and easy to read and easy to write.
Correct.
So then why the choice of a crime thriller for the first launch of Shortz?
Okay, it's always intrigued me, Vinita, and in fact, good you asked this question because this is the basis for Shortz. It's always intrigued me as to why is it that world over crime thrillers sell so much, and only in India crime thrillers don't sell the
Yeah,
way say a mythology does or romance does. Uh, it's possibly because reading a thriller requires a slightly different bent of mind. You need to be very very involved in the book to read a crime thriller, because you could actually have red herrings here, you could have something happening and on page A, and if you just skip it, you will miss the entire story. So you have to be thoroughly involved uh, with the characters, with the plot. Whereas I might get beaten up for saying this, but that the same is not true for a romance or a mythology novel. So it's a lot more easier to read those than it is to read thrillers. So we see a lot of youngsters actually starting to read romance. Okay, probably it's the age, probably it's the lure of easy reading and mythology, because India is culturally such a rich country, and we don't see them really picking up thrillers. The reason that you said, which is they read about it in the newspapers and on television channels these days and get so fed up that they don't want to pick up a book which has crime in it. But because of all these reasons, I think it's largely because reading a crime thriller is complicated. People don't take it up so easily, and people who once take it up don't give it up so easily either. So the reason that then that actually also reflects in a lot of publishers not really publishing crime thrillers the way they should. Look at the West. Okay, publishers are extremely thrilled to publish crime thrillers. In
yeah.
India, you know, the moment Ravi Subramanian says, "I don't want to write crime, I want to write romance," publishers are up in arms saying, "No, no, no, you please stay in crime." So somewhere there is also a hesitation on the part of the publishers to publish new talent, and unless you have more talent coming up, unless you have more people getting published, unless you have more stories being told, crime is not going to take off. And
Yeah. And unless more people take that risk and jump into the arena and
correct,
start doing like you've done with this, like Jigs has done with these two books.
correct.
Definitely.
So the world has been kind to me, and people like Ashwin and others who Hussein Zaidi, who write a lot of crime thrillers. And I think it's time to give it back and say to the community and say that, look, let's publish, or let's help publish new talent, good new talent, and give them a platform where they can actually tell their stories from. And Shortz is actually an initiative towards that. Uh, uh, I have worked closely with Jigs in this. I will work closely with a lot of other authors to bring out more stories in Shortz. But
Hopefully most of them
one
write in the winners.
sorry.
I said hopefully most of them write in their winners, people you
Oh
pick up
yes,
from.
you'll be very happy to know that there are a couple of which actually there's a couple of other Right India winners who are a part of the lineup for Shortz. And in fact, if I have to go and look for talent in this country for writing, uh, I don't need to look beyond Right India talent at all. That's the kind of filtered, wonderful talent which exists. So, if I would be very happy to collaborate with you, Vinita, to actually bring their voices to life and give them a platform to publish on.
That's wonderful news for all the Right India participants who are watching us right now. And there are lots of them.
Yeah. And two, if while this concept has been launched for thrillers, crime thrillers, I would want to expand it to psychological thrillers, romantic thrillers, and get into medical thrillers, depending on, for example, there is a doctor in who's won multiple contests in Right India. So now, if he decides to write a medical thriller, why not? And we need to bring out those kind of books and widen the entire gamut of crime thrillers, and hope that more and more people catch on to this. I'm reasonably confident that the more people that catch on to this, it'll be very difficult for people to let go of crime as a genre.
Yes, yes, and you have them watching it all the time on OTT platforms anyway. So there is
Absolutely.
that interest in it. Jigs,
Absolutely.
I read your books. I've read Insomnia. I've read the complete book, and I've read I'm halfway through A Brutal Hand, and I must say that they are like very quick reads. In fact, Insomnia, and Ravi knows that I finished it in like 2 hours, and Ravi
Yeah,
said that
yeah.
that is like a bit of a record probably, but then I finished this one in 2 hours, and that's lovely because you like to read something which you can finish quickly, and particularly with a thriller you want to get to the end of it. So was writing them as quick and easy as reading them is? What was your experience in writing these books?
So it was a mix of both, I would say. Um, so I'm not the kind of writer who can just sit and start typing and the story would flow, right. So I kind of blend the art, the creative part, with a lot of science in that. So I know the plot in my head, and Ravi and I would discuss it. But then I would actually write down each chapter, right? Because the story would be there in a very structured manner, and there would be characters, and I would try to ensure that each character doesn't go missing in the story for a longer time. So when would each character appear? So I would know exactly that, okay, there are these 50, 55 chapters, what happens in each chapter. And then I got down to writing each chapter like a scene that plays out, and then you just put it on paper. So that's the kind of a structure. And then Ravi brought in a lot of impromptu and the story, and okay, there's probably a backstory that is required. This character has to, the chart of this character has to be so on. So it was a nice collaborative effort that went through it. But yeah, I
Okay,
think
that's really wonderful because, like, Ravi was one of the mentors for Right India season one, and you were
yeah,
one of the participants and winners, and you've come together again and again. He's mentoring you into writing these books. How lovely!
absolutely,
It's really nice.
absolutely.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
And how different was writing these novellas from writing a short story, Jigs? Because earlier you've just written short stories, and now you've done a novella. And I believe after this you're working on a novel or a complete novel by yourself.
That's
Tell
right.
us about that as well. After telling us difference between writing a short story and a novella.
So both have their own charm, and there is both are as challenging, I would say, right? Because in a short story, especially for Right India, when I was writing, right, I had to restrict myself to 3,000 words, right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of drafting, redrafting, editing, and at the same time, you don't want to miss out on any element of the story that you want to tell, right? So that was a challenge. Um, at the in the novella, right, the Insomnia and the Brutal Hand, I had the liberty to kind of write maybe 25,000, 30,000 words. But also the challenge there was that nowhere in that entire span of the book should the tempo or the pace go down, right? So maintaining it at a, like you said, that you finish it in 2 hours. So always think of how the reader would read it. You don't need a dull moment in these books, is the challenge there. But both equally interesting. And yes, now I am like 70% done at my first, which I hope will be the first full novel. That's another different challenge. But then the creative satisfaction of writing and bringing in whatever elements you want, maybe two or three subplots to a big story, is the thrill of writing a big novel. So yes, enjoying all three of them. Yeah.
Okay. And is your novel the one that you're working on now? Is that also a crime thriller?
It is. It is a crime thriller. The theme is potential assassination, which I'm working on. So maybe more to reveal later, but yeah, it is a crime thriller. It's in the same
Okay.
genre.
All right. Great. Looking
Vinita,
forward to that.
this is called nurturing competition, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it is. You are doing exactly that. What else? So Ravi,
Yeah.
in any case, I don't think there's any threat to you because you've been playing with and getting successful in several genres. And you started off as a banking thriller writer, and you were known as our bankster, we would call you very often. And then from there on, you went to write a romance, and then you went on to write that thriller based in a temple. And based on any real life, reflecting real life theft. So from there to writing children's books, you've come out with a book for children, and written another one also. Are
That's
you
right.
are you going to come back to banking thrillers? Are you going to come back to romance? Are you going to come back to crime writing? What are you going to be doing next?
So here's what it is, Vinita. I think, and I keep saying it again and again, that as a writer, you should never box yourself into one genre. It's a publisher who boxes you in a particular genre. As a writer, you should break free. And I have experimented in various genres. I have Shortz is again one of the breakout experiments that I'm doing. Uh, I will also. I'm also writing a children detective novel series which comes out next month,
Mhm.
uh, and the next uh, full novel, next big novel of mine, will hopefully come out middle of next year, and that's a crime thriller. That's a crime thriller, rather a banking thriller. So that's back in the world of banking, and let's see how that goes. So I'm open to experimentation. I try out all new things, and I think I do it more for the fun of it, and when you do that, I think nothing should stop you from doing what you want to do.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's one of the things that Write India does for you, because every month when we have a new author giving a passage which inspires people to write short stories, uh, it's like completely different genres that you're writing for. You could be writing in the very first month, you could be writing romance. In the next month, you could be writing a psychological thriller, because we've had some international authors like Claire McIntosh asking for a psychological thriller. We've
Mhm.
had Salman Rushdie, we've had Amitav Ghosh, we've had so many authors inspiring others to write, Jeffrey Archer and all. And the very month after that, you could be writing something completely different, like mythology, as Amish asks for whenever he's,
Correct.
the right author. So I think this generation of authors is quite used to, and they all write, the ones who are at the top and the ones who write well. It is surprising that they write well in all genres. It's not that they are stuck to one. So that kind of flexibility is amazing to me. It really
That's
is.
exactly the point, Vinita, in the sense that, if you write well and if you research your stories and write well, then you should be able to write in any kind of a story.
Yeah.
Why should you hold back and be restricted to one genre? And I think, Jigs, given that you are starting off on your journey now, you should experiment and never get tied on to one single genre, because trends change, right? And trends is what forces you to be tied up to one single topic. And when they change, then what do? You don't have a choice. And Vinita, I like your example of Write India, where the same participant writes again and again in completely or diametrically opposite spheres. So I think, yeah, I would give my right hand to do new things in life.
Yeah. You said once, I remember, that Indian authors write, they come out with very complex plots. And I agree with you, really, because a lot of the books, a lot of the bestsellers also, I find them very difficult to read because of the very complex plots. Whereas
I'm
Western writers, and that's true of movies as well, has been true of earlier movies. And but Western writers and Western movie makers, they'll come out with a simple plot and they stick to that, and somehow it becomes so much more of a pleasure to read. So are you
you
trying to sort that out with shots?
Yeah, in the sense that, it's if you look at Jigs books, if you look at both Insomnia and the Brutal Hand, uh, they would read like a Western thriller, and where you have very few characters. For example, if you remember Insomnia, it has
Hmm.
6 characters. That's
And
it.
the focus is sharp. You know what
And
you're like. from
Yeah,
people.
so it's like something happens. There is an entire chain of events which follows that, and then you come to the end. Now,
Yes.
the challenge in writing those stories is uh, you can't really build multiple plots in those. So you will actually have to keep it fairly linear. But what you give the reader is pretty much pace, pretty much suspense, pretty much the thrill of wondering what's going on and what's happening. So it's like you keep turning the page every now and then, and I think Jigs, you would possibly be, and I'm saying this with my whole heart, that you would possibly be the first Indian writer to get published who has written in a truly Western style. In the sense, if you look at Patterson's books, okay, there is not a single element of frill in those. It's like he calls it all thrill no frills. I think that's what your book is, Jigs. It's like all thrill no frill. You just keep going on. There is no scenery, there is no description here and there. There is not a word extra which an editor can knock off from the book at this point in time. it's
That's
it's nice, and I think it's a to that extent it's a brilliant thriller, truly Western way of writing. And I guess these are all also movieable books.
No, and
So
that's exactly what the aim was when we started writing, right? That it should be like a thriller movie, and each scene follows the next one, right? I mean, so it's just a sequence of that, and you just put them together without any frills and bells and whistles, right? So just one story without the clutter is what we were trying to do. So
I
I'm
love
glad.
the admiration society going on over here, because that's high praise from Ravi, Jigs. And in a way, Ravi, you're also patting yourself on the back when you say that, because yes, that is the feeling that comes through the book, and you deserve that pat, definitely. But I want to ask Jigs, when you write with somebody so well known and successful as Ravi Subramanian, are you not scared that your style might be compromised, that you'll be influenced by his style of writing, or his way of writing, and become like somebody who is, okay, I won't use the word clone, but somebody who writes like Ravi? Were you not scared of that? You don't. I'm not saying you did. You don't. You write very differently. But
yeah.
were you not scared?
No, I wasn't actually, because the way we started on this journey, right? I remember it was in Ravi's office at BKC, and we met, and I went to him with three plots, right, and outlines, one pagers, and we discussed and debated, and we actually zeroed in on these two and said, okay, how will the story end and what will happen, etc. Right? So there was a lot of mentorship and creative inputs, but at the same time there was also a lot of freedom to enable me to write the way I wanted to write. Right. So I think it was a great, healthy balance of these two, and I think that's where the books have come out the way they have.
And Vinita, my intent is clearly not to thrust my style of writing on these, because if the objective is to bring out new writing and new talent, then people will have to read them, right? Not me in those books. So to that extent, I think the attempt will also be to not kind of edit it or thrust my style of writing on them. And as you rightly said, this book is very, very different. This book is, uh, in a book this thick, my book will have 25 characters. This book has 6 or 7 characters, and I think
It works very well,
it's
yes. So it's
and
very generous of you. You've given the umbrella of your protection to him and allowed him to do whatever he wants under that. That's really nice. Yeah.
and there's a lot of praise coming for Right India on the comments section, Vinita. I think you should read that, and I think it's pretty interesting. And but is there if there's but Jigs, all I can say is uh, you are a debut novelist today, and I keep saying this. I've said this to you in the past. You are a debut novelist only once, and your next book is going to be your third, right? It's not going to be your first book ever again.
Nor
So
the second. Yes.
So
it's
it's been a very exciting 2.5 year journey writing these two books, seeing them culminating like this. Uh, Very mixed emotions right now, honestly, Ravi, and very excited, a bit nervous as well because it's the debut. But I also know that I will not experience this thrill of a debut again. but I'm looking forward to more and many
And
things.
But you probably will, Jigs, because next time after the pandemic, you'll have your first debut on stage in front
yeah,
of a live audience. So that'll be
oh,
another debut.
yeah.
So you
Yeah,
will.
looking
I wish
forward.
you the best. I wish your book does really, really well. And one, because I'm launching it here for you today, and second, because Right India, and of course, the main reason that they are very good books.
And
That's
Vinita, just a couple of parting comments. I think without Right India, uh, Jigs would not have discovered his writing talent. Or let me put it this way: maybe he would not have discovered his writing talent so soon. I know Jigs because I worked with him in HSBC in the past, and Jigs was the last person you would go to assuming that he would write a thriller novel. Okay, so to me, it came as much as a shock that he won this not once but twice. He won for both
for
Jeffrey Archer
Jeffrey
and
and for
Nobody.
Shobha as
Yeah.
well. Yes.
So you have a huge role in bringing out the hidden talent there, and so I think thank you for doing that and keep doing that. And if there are anybody who you think uh, writes well and needs to be explored or needs to be worked with to give him another platform, I would be happy to work with anybody that you would recommend. And so, to that extent, if there's anybody, please feel free to put them on to us. And both Amazon, Westland, and me would be very happy. We have
Thank you.
planned a long sequence of thrillers, so we would be very very happy to get
Wonderful.
them.
Thank you so much on behalf of Right India and me too. Thank you.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you very much for agreeing to launch the book. And Jigs, all the very best from both my side and from Vinita's side. And may this
Thank you,
be the
Ravi.
beginning of a long and successful innings.
Thank you so
Yes.
much, both of you.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much, and thank you for everyone who's been watching us on on Facebook. We will soon be sharing the video feed also on various pages. So thank you very much,
Yes,
and best
and
of
thank
luck.
Bye.
Thanks,
yeah.
Vinita.
Do buy the
We
books, read them.
Yeah,
we
do
hope
buy
you
the book. They are available on Amazon and any bookstore which is open. It's available. And my last appeal is that do read this for the cause of thriller writing in this country, because this is not this is an experiment for that cause. So do read it and do share our feedback, because I think largely whether you like it or not, do share the feedback, because we need to build conversations around thriller writing in this country for thrillers to do well. So you can play your part in it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening.